All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Thijs van Rosmalen. I'm working at Webs, and I am here welcoming you for the 14th episode of Webs Webinar Wednesday. Today, together with my colleague from Dublin, he's working at HubSpot, Steve Vaughan. Welcome, Steve. We're talking about marketing and sales for manufacturers, and especially the online part of marketing and sales today. And we have a very qualitative group today, so I'm very pleased that you are all here. As you mentioned, you are on mute, so if you have any questions, please use the chat pane, and even Steve or I can decide to put you on mute, off mute, if you want to clarify some questions or ask everything. Because we want to have this quality hour full of online marketing and sales, especially for manufacturers, especially for you. Steve, welcome. Let's
It's time to act, Thijs.
Yeah, it is.
Act, and if not now, when? Welcome everyone, whether you're in the Netherlands or in Dublin or anywhere in between, you're so welcome. Nice to have you here. My name is Steve. I work for HubSpot. I work closely with the guys at Webs and with Thijs. So lovely to have you here. The point of this webinar was to sort of say, if you're a manufacturer, the world has changed for everyone. Every business, every person in the world has dramatically changed. And the question today we're trying to answer is, if this dramatic world change doesn't drive an online transformation in your business, well, if you're not going to act now, when will you ever act? And so we want to be a bit provocative and get you thinking about what it would mean to take advantage of a very challenging situation. So we're going to look at 4 things today. We're going to look at the manufacturer's pains. Thijs and the guys at Webs have so much experience helping manufacturers go online with marketing and sales. They're going to talk about the pains that manufacturers face so that we can think about how to solve them. I'm then going to do a little bit on moving from outside to inside sales and the transformation that needs to happen in the business. We're then going to look at the transitioning of the team and the culture. It's okay to have the vision, but there's a team and there's people and there's processes and there's policies and there's people that don't want it and there's long-standing traditions in businesses. So how do we transition? Again, we're going to have a case study there. And then if we have time, and if you want to stay around, there'll be 10 minutes for a little demo of some of the sales tools and how they sync with marketing. We don't want to be too salesy here, so if that's not for you, you can head off, and it will just be a light little bit at the end. Please, please, please ask your questions. We can take you off mute, and we'd love to interact with you today. So thank you for coming. I'm going to hand over to Thijs now, and he's going to take us through the first bit, the manufacturer's pain. Nice to be here. Thanks for coming. Over to you, Thijs.
Thank you, Steve. So we're digging in some pain points now for manufacturers. So you probably recognize some things I'm going to share. In the chat, how many of the upcoming 5 characteristics are applicable to your business? So think of this. You get 5 characteristics, and please mention the number of characteristics which are applicable to you. We sell worldwide, number 1. Number 2, we are operating in a niche market. Number 3, we have products and knowledge you can't find anywhere else very easily. An average sales cycle takes about 6 months or even longer. Or the 5th one, we need to influence multiple people per deal. For example, engineers, purchasers, a CEO, a COO maybe. Think of this. So how many of these 5 characteristics are applicable to your business? In the chat pane. Caroline says all 5. Lou says 4. Tom says 4. At least 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 3, 4, and 5. Stefan is saying. Pien is mentioning number 2. We're operating in a niche market. Philip is saying 4. Total amount. So at least, Steve, if we look at the chat, I think at least 3 to 4 points are applicable to everybody. So we are facing same challenges. How can we sell worldwide? How can we be reaching the right people in a niche market? How can we make sure that everybody knows our knowledge? How can we be seen as a thought leader in that niche market? How can we influence a longer sales cycle with a complex DMU? So the challenges in the manufacturing, online marketing and sales are for real. Let's take a look at the past months. Keep these challenges in mind. There were some things changing. If you remember all these headlines, maybe some of you read these articles, there was this amazing trade show blues. The coronavirus made that trade shows were canceled. Another thing what happened, for example, oh, sorry, this is an example of maybe you would like to go here, the Hannover Messe, one of the biggest manufacturing trade shows in Europe. They mentioned that they will be there next year. So you complete miss this in your marketing calendar this year. What also changed the last months were these kind of headlines, that COVID-19 pushes the internet usage. People went more and more online the past months. And if you take some graphs, for example, Italy, when Corona break out there, you see an increase of it in traffic. And even in the US, you see the same. So what didn't change in this situation, on the one hand, our channels, our ways to influence that niche market, to connect with future prospects, to travel to future prospects, it was all eliminated in the past months. But what didn't change was how all those future customers of your organization are searching for information. Think of this carefully. 70% of the buyer journey happens before any interaction with sales. So 70% of the decision is made without you, without interaction with you. So think of this. How can we online influence that 70%? How can we be visible as an organization within that 70%? But also, how can we keep an eye on people who are evaluating and getting information in terms of a purchase decision in the future? And Gartner shows us this, that only 17%, there's even more, 83% they say, is done without you. So only 17% of a decision is made with the interaction of potential suppliers. And they find it difficult. It's not easy to make a decision, purchase decision, if you are in B2B manufacturing. It influences a lot of your business. Prototyping, product development, you name it. So 90% of the B2B buyers use search to do research of their business purchases. So we need to think of how can we use our biggest friend, Google, in order to influence this. But the other hand is also 60% of B2B buyers only consider one or two companies before reaching out. So again, that 70% of gray area, if you don't do it right, is crucial for you to make sure to see where people are. Like, what kind of information do they need? How can we influence them? How can we actually help them? Guys, stop selling, start helping those people in their need for information. And finally, you will be one of those two companies where they reach out to. That's how we think on inbound marketing and inbound sales these days. So if we keep this in mind and we take a look on how B2B marketing and sales acts nowadays, how digital are they? This is a very familiar situation. You all know this. And it's still very powerful if the trade shows are running, of course. But think of this as a metaphor. You see salespeople aligned. You see branding. You see information sharing. You see places, seats to hang out, to interact with each other. This is a good lead generation because people are walking by, they step into your trade show booth, and their need for information is there. So think of this metaphor and then think on how you do it in your organization, because this will look familiar as well. Everybody is well dressed, aligned in the trade show to talk to future customers. Sales know their stories. There are marketing people who prepared everything, ready to talk to future customers who are passing by. But the thing is, this is only one day a week, or sorry, 1 week per year, for example, or even because of COVID, a lack of those things for the whole year. So if you keep that metaphor in mind and think on how to optimize your online landscape, you should see it as that number one marketing instrument and that number one sales employee. Because people are passing by your online trade show 24/7, 365, instead of 1 week per year. And then people say, if you're going to your boss, maybe after this great webinar, you say, we have to do this. And they say, no, it's not in our target group. Our target group is not online. They are. Industrial professionals and engineers are spending at least 6 hours per week for online investigation. They also go to the trade shows, but 6 hours per week, they are searching for information online. So what did we learn from those past months? Your sales colleagues, they turned into inside sales reps overnight. Steve's going to talk about this. So think of this. How can we help them with the right techniques and the right tools to still execute the sales process in your organization while they can't travel, they don't have trade shows? And how are they spending their precious time? So are they enabled to continue and build their pipeline on remote? I think some sales teams are struggling these days. So let's think of this. Please go online more and more and more instead of less. It's crucial for you as a company to have an online presence these days to be able to win and maintain the relationship with your future customer and prospects. So again, your website is that trade show. It's accessible 24/7. Even when you are asleep, a lead from the US can read your content. 365. If you think of that and you have a trade show booth where nobody is there, there is only information, and you wait till people pick up the information and start calling you, that will be a waste of money. That's a trade show without salespeople, without interaction, without helping visitors. That's what we see on online landscapes in the B2B manufacturing too many times. That you have a brochure online with a phone number and you wait people call you instead of helping them in that 70%. Because they don't call that many. They only choose 2 companies to reach out to. And that should be you. So ask yourself, do you know how you're performing online? Do you have all the insights? Do you investigate all the gaps? And do you know how to close it? Or another question, do you have budget maybe now for online because nobody is traveling and trade shows are canceled? Can you make a shift in budget maybe? Think of those questions. So it's time to act right now, because if you don't do it right now, when are you going to do? So think of this in order to make sure that you have that mindset right with the whole organization, because you are already in this webinar today. You are already in the right mindset. You want to change. You want to adapt. You're not survivors anymore. COVID passed. We're now thinking on how to adapt. And finally, you can make sure that you will have a growth mindset and make sure that you will have enough leads. So this moment is actually a very, very big opportunity to force an adaptation that should have already happened. So talk internally with sales, with marketing, with your director, and think on your mindset. How are you going to adapt this change? Because you should go online with marketing and sales. I'm not saying that you're going to sell online, but the interaction starts online more and more and more. See your online landscape as a 24/7, 365 trade show. So, to finish this first part of the presentation, rate yourself and be honest here, guys. Be honest. on a scale of 1 to 10, how well have you adapted to online marketing and sales due through COVID-19? A 1 is very, very badly, and a 10, you're the best in class. In the chat pane, I see a 1 coming in, a 6, a 7, so that's a 2, Caroline.
Keep the answers coming. Thank you for being honest. It's good to see. That's a 1 and a 2 there, and 6 and 7s and 5s. That's good. What do other people say? This is a key moment, isn't it? In for our businesses to adapt. 5 not sufficient enough for sure. Yeah. What do other people say? We have something like 27 people on the call. Maybe 4 or 5 more people. How have you adapted? 7. Good. Good to hear that. Really good. That's positive that people have made changes. Also, if you are able to, in the chat pane, could you let me know if you're in marketing or sales or another part of your business? So just put that in the chat as well. But what do other people say? Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How well have you adapted to online marketing and sales through COVID-19? There's a spelling there, excuse me. 1, very, very badly. 10, couldn't have done better. And tell us if you're in marketing and sales. So we've got a couple of marketeers, someone in sales. Very, very good. Super. Does anyone have any questions at this stage that they'd like to ask myself or Tice? Any questions from Tice's material that has been raised? Please, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat or we can unmute you. No? Any questions?
No, we're good to go, I think.
We're good to go. Okay, great.
So some work to do, Steve.
Now, here we go. There we go. So I'm talking about it's time to act. If not now, when? From outside to inside sales. Typically, manufacturers have had a very outside sales model, as Tice was saying. The trade shows, the networking, the brochures, the going and meeting people face to face. And obviously, that still has a place. We understand that. But how do we move inside? Because certainly in the last 3 months, we've had to be inside. We've had no choice. But how can we think about moving to inside? So I want to bring a few reflections. The first one, our good friend, Winston Churchill, said, never allow a good crisis to go to waste. And so if you were in an earlier webinar, I talked about this. This is the moment to act. Tice already used the expression, didn't he? Could this force an adaptation that should already have taken place? And I use the example a few times now of this company that the moment COVID kicked in, transformed their entire tech stack and came on board with HubSpot. And she tells us why. And she says a few interesting things. She talks about the world being different and to be ready for the fast pace of transformation. You know, businesses can be left behind here. This could be a very detrimental long-term problem for businesses, not just short-term, if they don't adapt, because other businesses will adapt and you will get left behind. Customers need education and community now more than ever, but that has to be online. They found a partner to help them, and it was our rallying point. The whole business realized we have to go online. There's a great little blog post there from Amanda. So let's talk about outbound to inbound sales. I want to bring 4 things to your attention. The first thing I want to bring to is the mindset. What does it mean to be inbound versus outbound sales? And the two can work together. First of all, there's a mindset. Inbound says we're going to give value before we extract value. That's the fundamental big idea of inbound. How as a business, how as a salesperson, how as a marketeer, how as a brand, can I be giving value? Can I be helping my prospects? Can I be answering questions? Can I be solving pains? Can I be educating? How can I give value before I extract value? The outbound sales approach says, I'm going to tell you about my product, why we're amazing, why you need to go with us, our case studies, all our success stories. I'm going to give you our elevator pitch. It's all about me. So you're not giving any value. You're extracting. You're just telling them, this is who I am, and now tell me your story, or can we do business? So inbound says, now how can I give value? And obviously, as Ty said, if 60 to 70% of the sales cycle is complete before they speak to a salesperson, please note that statistic. If you haven't given any value online in that 60 to 70% of the journey, why are they going to choose you? Why are they even going to speak to you? So as someone is on search, is on Google, is on the online channels, and they've got these questions and they've got these problems and they're searching online, if you as a business haven't positioned yourself to give value and to offer help while they are doing their investigation, they're not going to speak to you to finish when they come to decision time. So there's a mindset change. So as a salesperson, and I've been working in HubSpot for coming up to 7 years now, before that for other tech companies, you have to think, when I'm speaking to someone, the first thing I'm trying to do is help. The first thing I'm trying to do is offer something that might be able to solve something for them for free, just to help, to become a trusted advisor. I'm not here to pitch my product and my service. So it's a mindset, outbound to inbound. The other thing around the mindset, I guess, is having, the outbound mindset is, hey, I'm going to go to a trade show, I'm going to get all these leads, and then I'm going to call all these leads. And it's quite a sort of, your season is a bit like this, right? It's a bit of a seesaw because you've got trade shows or events or your big, brochure publication or whatever it is. And there's a bit like this. You have, whereas an inbound sales process says, wait a minute, we are going to generate leads all year round, because my website is a 365-day, 24 hours a day trade show. So we are going to generate leads all year round, and I'm going to have a process to follow up leads all year round. And it's not going to be these few key occasions. It's going to be a gradual, continual, sustainable way to make sure you're growing as a business. So the mindset is the first thing to think about. The second thing to think about is training. So working from home, working from the office, using phone and video does require a whole lot of training for someone that has been working 20 or 30 years, going to trade shows and turning up to events and going to networking occasions and working out of an old phone book that they've had for years and meeting for lunch and playing golf. And like, that stuff is still cool and can happen, sure. But it comes to the mindset first, but that's not kind of what my job is going to look like anymore. But then there's a training. So how do I work from home, and how do I structure my day, and how do I do more of my sales using video from the office? How do I put on webinars? How do I use LinkedIn to make sure that I have a brand and I'm adding value online and involved in LinkedIn conversations? All those kind of things, if you have a traditional sales organization, are going to take some training. So have you got the people inside to be those early adopters? And have you got the trainers who can then roll that out to the wider team? So we need a mindset shift. We need to envision people. We need to help people understand about giving value before we extract value, about helping, about being present as people are learning and helping them in their learning journey. We then need to think about training our team, not just in our mindset, but in the tools and the tactics and the daily and weekly rhythms that are different and maybe a bit challenging. We then need a process. So we need a digital sales process, working with inbound marketing leads. It's a digital sales process. Now, what do I mean by that? This is what I mean. Here we have content, really high value piece of content where you're going to give value to your prospects. You're going to organize a great ebook. You're going to organize some kind of great online evaluation. You're going to do a thought leadership piece. Whatever it is, some really high value piece of content. This is called the cluster, pillar and cluster model of content. So here's your pillar page. This is your high value page that converts on your website. You're trying to get all your traffic, all your hot leads to come here. And how do you do that is you create this cluster content around it. So you're going to be creating lots of smaller bits of value, LinkedIn, social media, blog posts, different things that are going to be feeding into the pillar page where people are going to convert. So this is your high value piece of content specific to your niche, your market, and fits your customers' pains. That's the key. You're solving for your customers' pains and their problems, and you're not talking about your product. Now, like this webinar, maybe one of you will say, hey, I want to speak to Tice or Steve because I'm now, after this webinar, I'm super keen to investigate HubSpot or investigate web services. I want to go inbound. How can you help me? The bottom of the funnel offer, we're ready to speak and talk business. Maybe one of you from this phone call will do that. And if that's great. But most of you will say, no, we're good. We're here just to learn. We just converted on this pillar page just to learn. That's fine. We're here to help. We're here to give value before we extract value. If you never do business with us, that's okay. We're then going to nurture you and try and keep adding value to you based on what you're doing. And that's always an opt-in. So you opt in rather than us forcing that on you. Until the point where you may say, hey, I'm ready to speak now. It's the right time. It's the right moment. And COVID, I think, has fast forwarded this. That's our point of today's webinar. If not now, when? This is the moment to develop this digital sales process. But as a salesperson, you have to understand this process. You have to be working with marketing effectively, and you need to know your role. What does marketing do in helping the content side of the business? And what do the salespeople do in terms of following up the leads and nurturing them through the process? And you have to have that process organized, and that's not easy. And that's why we use people like Webs to help transform companies who are thinking this through. So you need to create the process and understand the roles of marketing and the roles of sales. So we talked about a mindset. Give value before you extract value. Be there to help. Don't talk about your product, but educate and solve their pains and add value with online content, your 365-day trade show online through your website. Second thing, training. Once you've got the mindset, we now need to help people who are used to a traditional sales model to go inside, and therefore using different ways of doing that and different rhythms in their daily and weekly life and yearly life. Then we need the processes, a digital sales process as we work on those inbound leads. And then finally, we do need the technologies to support them. We want salespeople to be using video. Maybe some of you saw the video on LinkedIn that we advertise this with. We need sequences, a way to automate your sales outreach. We need meeting links because people need to book meetings online rather than at a trade show. We need to be able to get people to sign up and give them quotes and sign up online because we may never speak to them. We may never hand over contracts. It may be all online. We need a way to handle our pipeline, our tasks, our queues, our lead lists. All that needs to be well organized and easy to use technologies so people can be inside salespeople. It's no good saying we've got the mindset, we've trained them, we've given them the processes, and they're still working, with their mobile phone and an Excel spreadsheet and pen and paper. No. We've got to give them easy to use technologies. That is part of the training process. So I suggest you, if you want to move from an outbound to an inbound sales organization, or increase your inbound sales while you may retain an element of outbound, those are 4 things for you to think through. So we're halfway through, so we're perfectly on time, which is very satisfying for me and Tice. Tell us in the chat pane, and any questions, please ask them. What is the biggest blocker to you accelerating your inside sales team right now? I'm really interested to know the answers here. What is the biggest blocker to you accelerating your inbound sales team right now? You want to put that in the chat? Process. Okay, thank you. You want to go back to the slide before, Tice? You can take back over. Okay, process. What else? What are other people's big blockers to accelerating the sales team from those 4? 70 years of yeah. And we know that, Tom, and we know that. And that's why we want to help you and envision. And so thank you. Mindset, yeah, that's interesting. So it's nothing to do with the other ones. So someone's process. It's interesting. The first 3 answers have 3 different replies. What do other people say? Would love to hear from more people on this webinar. What is the biggest blocker to accelerating your inbound sales team right now? Or if you have a question, do let us know your question too. Anyone else? What is your biggest blocker? Mindset of the CEO. Yeah, that can also be a challenge. And again, we want to see if we can help. And again, think about when you think about your CEO, we mustn't end up being outbound to our CEO. We have to give value and make sure we're solving their pains, his or her pains. And we're thinking of them and going, like, this is where they're at. How can I help them? How can I add value? Not just how can I keep banging my being an outbound person, right? So that's quite interesting. Selling internally involves inbound. Rob says outside sales money company, traditional thinking. Yeah. And guys, if you have questions you want to ask specifically for Tyson and I, then let us know. Not enough confidence in any new approach. Yeah. And that's a challenge, to give people that confidence. And a lot of that might take a bit of time and education. So if we can help with this, as you try and persuade people internally, let us know. We'd love to help. Thank you for your answers in the chat pane. Any questions, let me know. Back over to you, Tice. The big cultural team change.
Yeah. 70 years of cultural change. How could you change that? That's a great question. The thing is, as Steve mentioned, the time for change is right now. So we need to match our marketing and sales and services in the way our future customers want to buy. But the thing is, like you all said in the chat pane, thanks for your questions. Make sure that it's also an internal sales process for yourself. Like, make sure that you show people step by step that this need for change is relevant these days. I will share some ideas, some things on how you can change that culture, maybe some digits to give some proofs and some insights. This is always a very strong one. In my introduction, I already mentioned the metaphor of your online landscape as an exhibition stand, as a trade show. These are real figures. So on the right side, you see the online landscape of Vostermans Ventilation, which is one of the biggest manufacturers of ventilation and exhaust fans, those kind of things in big buildings and halls. But the thing is, if they go to a trade show, they have maybe 100,000 euros spent on one trade show. 8,000 visitors, 400 visitors in the stand, 30 business cards. That's always the biggest KPI of a trade show. How did the trade show go? I got so many business cards. It was amazing. But how qualified are all those business cards? Did they have great follow-up? Yes or no? Only 5 sales qualified leads as a result of a 100K investment. They transformed this and not only skipped the trade shows, they made it combined. So, and online trade shows and the offline trade shows still. But think of around 40K website plus the marketing technology of HubSpot. Gives them an exhibition stand for this year where 80,000 visitors were attending that stand. 2,400 leads, so people who are downloading information, asking for information, raising their hands, and 280 people of those 2,400 leads are starting a sales conversation with Vostermans. So think of this, it's even half the investment, and take a look at that great ROI on sales qualified leads. So the thing is, it's not about only a tool like putting up marketing automation, change your website. That's all very relevant, and you will have that. You will need that in order to execute. But in order to sell it internally, think on what Steve says. What business challenges are you going to solve with inbound marketing and inbound sales? So think of the bottom layer of this graph. Make a growth plan for the challenges you want to tackle with inbound. Think always in euros. How many leads need to convert to how many customers, which equals how many euros? Think of the process to do that. Think of how can inbound marketing and sales as a method, as a process, can support our marketing and our sales team. And then you go to the people. What do we have in terms of capacity and expertise? And what do we need? What are the gaps? And then it's super easy to make decisions on tooling. You will need to buy HubSpot. You will need to change some things on your website. But it will all contribute to your business objectives. And then zooming in now, this is a great graph. Take a look at it tomorrow again, because I know that I show a lot here. But think of this, like if you have the ideal situation, the ideal commercial cooperation between marketing and sales, you're talking about a growth team. There is this inbound marketing team who is focusing on attracting and converting people into sales. That's your inbound marketing process. And you have that sales management, that sales process, which will be executed by sales representatives who are already in your business. If you see that as two islands, you will be failing inbound marketing and sales. Simply reason, if marketing puts up great effort to get the right people to the website and get the right people downloading information on the website, and sales is not involved, they need to follow up all these great leads. So if they're not happy with what marketing is offering, you're working on two islands, and it will never get a kickstart within your organization. So think on how to cooperate with marketing and sales. And then I always get the question, and it's in line with the culture change that Tom was mentioning, but sales is doing it their way, and they're doing it for 70 years already, and they're successful, so why should they change? Make it small and start to gain some great results. So think of a salesperson in your organization who has a digital mindset, who has the capacity to think wider and think on new perspectives than only what he's doing today. Because if he keeps doing what he is doing, he will get what he got. And in terms of a change, in terms of getting better leads, getting more leads, work more efficient, you should change together with marketing. So make it small. Make sure you involve one digital savvy salesperson and, of course, marketing, and try to get a pilot running or something like that for one product market combination and start generating leads. In the beginning, we said we all have a long sales cycle. So don't promise your boss from month one that you will have 5 new clients within the next 6 months. That's not realistic. But show them that in order to close 5 clients in a year from now, we should need more interaction on the website. So talk in terms of, I offer you so many MQL, marketing qualified leads. I am promising sales that they get 1 good conversation per week, and it's up to them how to close it into a customer. But start thinking on those KPIs and start cooperating with a digital savvy salesperson, and make sure that you start small in terms of a pilot or something like that. So start thinking from the outside in perspective. I love the remark Steve was making. It's not only if you're selling this inside in your organization, don't bang on doors like we are going to do inbound. No, you start thinking from the outside in perspective, like you also do for your future customers. You need to solve a pain point. For example, we spend too many on trade shows, and the ROI on SQLs is too low. I have an idea. Let's use one budget for one trade show to optimize our online trade show. Those kind of things. Think of the pain points. Your customer need for information is your starting point, always. So internally, it's your boss, but externally, it's of course, what is the pain points your customers are facing? So stop selling, start helping. That's what I mentioned already. And the thing is, if you start executing this, you will get content in the right context. And that's where relevancy comes in. So if you are sharing content online to your future customers, they will think, hey, this is written for me because it's relevant for me. It's in my context. I want to dig in. I want to know more. Let me engage with this organization. This is a great one. I will make sure that you will get this presentation so you can show this internally. HubSpot, Steve's colleagues did a great benchmark out of 68,000 HubSpot users. What could you expect in terms of revenue in this? If you start doing inbound marketing, average conversion from a website visitor to a relevant hand raiser is 2%. And then that hand raiser, 2% or 3 to 5% of, for those hand raises will convert finally into customers. So for an example, we had of the website I showed you in the beginning, 2,400 visitors per month. That eventually leads to around 4 customers on a yearly basis. Think of the average order value of your existing customers. Think of it right now. What is a deal where you are happy with? I think it's above 25,000 euros. Think of that. Times the number of customers. Year, sorry for that, Tom. It's per month. Eventually, you will get 4 new customers per month because you will get the leads in January and they will be closed in August, for example. And that's how inbound works. It's an exponential growth model. It's not, we do one trade show and we get a peak in leads and then we drop down because we don't do trade shows anymore. And then we do another trade show and we get some leads and then we drop down again. No, it's on top of each other, ongoing all the time. It's an exponential growth model. So an example of a B2B manufacturing organization who start this transition in 2016. The company is called Veco. It's a precision metal engineering company. They are very helped with starting prototyping with engineers, because if they have the right prototype set up, they know a lifetime of 5 to 6 years of production will follow. So their customer lifetime value will increase tremendously after year 1. So what they start doing is, let's target those engineers. Let's start from an engineer to an engineer, because that's the person in our DMU where we started our conversation with. In the end, after a couple of years, now the situation, I can't show you the real digits at this stage, year to date, today, but I know that 1 out of 2 sales conversations started via online, which means that every customer, 1 out of 2 customers, get to know Veco via online search, via content they were sharing, via inbound marketing. So in year 0, this is what I can show you, because this is from a couple years ago. They had 46 visitors turning into 18 customers in year 1. In the year 0. In year 1, it almost doubled in customers already. And you see visitors going up, SQLs grew, and the number of customers went up. So now imagine there are years after this graph, and 1 out of 2 customers got the first touch point with this organization via online. Are they selling online? No, they're not. But the interaction, the get to know each other, starts online based on the relevant content. And then think of this. I could show you this. Trade shows, costs. The cost per SQL on a trade show, 1,523 euros for a trade show. Inbound marketing, just 148. And if you add paid campaigns to that, it's even 450 euros, but still not even half the cost per lead as with a trade show. And these are real numbers. This is not something I came up with. This is real ROI here. So think of this, how to change the culture. Start small, use sales, align with sales, use a sales colleague who is digital savvy. I'm talking from a marketing perspective now. Make sure that you keep it small, 1 product market combination, maybe 1 target group like the engineers, and start making content for them and start generating interaction and start working towards those numbers. Steve, to reflect this part, what's the biggest cultural team blocker in the way of your digital transformation? What do you think? Let give people a moment to answer this in the chat pane. But what could be a biggest blocker? Is it, for example, a very traditional CEO?
Right. I think it will depend. Please put your answers in. I think this is probably where a lot of you are currently at. Maybe on this call, you are wanting to move faster, but it's persuading people internally. Yeah, I think the biggest blocker will depend. I think the 70 years of a culture, it takes a long time. I think a CEO who's not persuaded, that's very challenging. And I think the slides that Thijs has shown now, that's the kind of thing a CEO will get excited by. Look at those metrics, look at those conversions, look at that ROI, look at the money that's been made. What is the average order value? What is the average sales cycle? What is the conversion of visitor to lead and lead to customer? If you can start to answer those questions on your current framework and then put a different vision before your boss, then that is going to really help you. So anyone got any reflections or answers in the chat pane? What is the biggest cultural or team blocker in the way of you and your digital transformation? Why don't you just put that in the chat there? Be interested to get a few answers, and then I'm going to carry on for a bit longer. So does anyone have anything? Be interested to hear, or any questions? And we can take any questions.
Yeah.
So what do people think? What is the biggest blocker culturally for you guys? No one's volunteering. A very silent crowd. Our customer isn't that digital yet. Okay, your customer isn't that digital. Interesting. Okay, yeah, so how do you get your customer online too? Yeah, interesting. We've got a couple. First, change your mindset as CEO. Call lists instead of pulling potentials in. Yeah, there we go. Absence of, yeah, interesting. Yeah. So a lot of this mindset stuff is about casting a vision and showing results, right? And long-term nurturing of that. Bad negative experience in the past. Okay, that's good to hear. High cost, little negative ROI. So maybe there was wrong expectations, or revisit what happened there. So I appreciate your candor there, Onur. Mindset is the biggest challenge. Okay. Well, let us know, guys, if you want us to help in changing mindsets or coming and telling a different story, or these slides, you'll get them. So do use them. We need to show success before any money gets put in. Yeah, I love type. By the way, you can start making some small successes with your sales team. The marketing takes a bit more because you've got to organize your website. But your sales team, I'm going to show you some tools now for very, very little money. And so if you can get 1 or 2 salespeople on board to experiment, like Thijs was suggesting, that doesn't need to cost you very much money at all. And therefore, you can start to make a change. Okay, Thijs, let me share my screen, and then I'm going to finish off today with a bit of a demo of some of the tools. Now, we don't want to be too salesy, so if this isn't for you, that's no problem. I'm going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, and we're finished for today. So this is a sort of the final bit here. Can you see my screen here with the field sales to no touch?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Great. Okay, good. So this is the sales change that has happened. Okay, inbound to outbound sales. Okay, so we traditional field sales. It's low touch. It's high engagement on a few. Then B2B, you go to high touch, but you're potentially still a bit of inbound, outbound. Sorry, this is very high touch. Excuse me, on a few. Then you B2B, you go to still high touch. Then you go low touch when you're in SaaS, and you go no touch online. What has happened through COVID is that people have had to start to make this journey from field sales towards some kind of more online way of selling. So a lot of traditional manufacturers who were purely field sales are now having to adopt what might be called a high touch B2B sales model. So how would you go about, what are some of the tools that are needed? I just want to show you a few little things in HubSpot that may be helpful for you. So this is a HubSpot contact record. So it shows you all the details about a potential prospect who's come to your website and downloaded something or viewed some pricing page. So on the left-hand side here, you can see all the details around their conversion, who their account owner is, their name, their recent conversion, what value add did they download, their lead score. If they have multiple emails, we can organize all that. Their job role, likelihood to close, life cycle stage, all these kind of details, and we can customize this. We can see what they've been doing on our website, most recent visits, first visits, the page views. So kind of an overview to the person and why they might be of interest to you as a salesperson. Down the middle here, then, we have all of the details, everything they've done, whether that be within sales here, the calls and the conversations and the emails, the meetings, the notes and the tasks, or with their marketing activity, what forms have they submitted, what page views have they done, and then any marketing automation or any integrations. So for example, I might say, listen, I just want to know what forms they converted in, what ads have they clicked on, and what calls have they had with our salespeople. They might be interesting for me, and I can click on here, and now I get a summary of all that's happened, and I can see even the notes on the call here. So if I take off the call one, because there's quite a lot of examples, this is just a demo. We can see now some of the forms they've submitted, and they came, when they engage with our social platforms and or social ads and all our other content there. On the right-hand side, we get a summary of the company, the deals that are associated, any tickets. But a couple of things here that might be interesting. One is we get an integration with Sales Navigator. So again, if you just want to go slightly more online with your sales team, you can have a wireframe in the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and we can then connect with people and we can message people from here. It just speeds up the work and gets you thinking more digitally about how to go about your job. Now I can make a note here. I can email this person. I can email Brian. He's my colleague here, and it's going to send an email straight from HubSpot here. And we're going to see some here templates and sequences and different things I'm going to show you right now. We can make a call. We can schedule tasks. But all of that I'm seeing here, and I've taken Anna from Webs, who's hosting this webinar with us as an example, I can get here on in my Gmail or in your Office 365 or in your whatever email you use. So I can get all the templates and the sequences and a lot more. And I can therefore track every email. Every email can be logged that I send and that people reply to me. So if Anna comes to our website and engages and wants a demo of HubSpot, which won't be appropriate for a manufacturer, but maybe ask for a consultation, I could organize a little sequence of 4 or 5 emails and some tasks and to-dos for me, for example, to go and find her on LinkedIn. I'm going to be reminded in a day, and then I'm going to be given a task to call her. So you can start doing some of that online transformation with your sales team without having to make a big marketing change. They can be doing some of that outreach and have some of those sales accelerator tools. They can also do video. Again, if you've got someone who's more digitally minded, they can create videos for you and insert those into the emails. So there's my one that I did that you may have seen before. So that's a bit of a summary, I guess, of how the contact record works, and all that detail there about Anna and everything I showed you about Brian is all here too. And the timeline, everything she's been watching and clicking on and opening over the last little while. You see here as well, I've got all my notifications of all the different things that the different companies are doing on my website. So what pages are being viewed, the pricing page, whether people are looking at some of our content and downloads, and I've organized that into my inbox so that the different leads of different quality are coming in there. Now, when you're in HubSpot and you're trying to do inbound sales, the first thing you're going to think about is you're going to upload a list of contacts, and you're going to take the new downloaded ones that are coming through, and they're going to be there for you as your contacts. Well, these are all contacts. But then I can start to save some filters. So I can make sure I'm working the correct leads and the right leads. So I can look at my leads, my recently assigned leads, my uncontacted leads, or I can create some custom examples where I just create a little bit of a filter. So recent conversion this month, last contacted this month, there's no deals associated. And I would get a list of contacts here. As I said, this is just a demo. So I can organize my contacts to make sure I'm working the best contacts. A couple more things before we finish and final questions. Then I'm going to once I've started to work those and do the outreach and do the sequences and do the phone calls and do that digital sales process we talked about, someone's going to say, yeah, I'm ready to speak to you and I'd like to talk about whether we can engage your services. So then you might have different pipelines created for your different products. And you can customize all the stages of the pipeline to bring people through. And then you can just drag people as you're having the conversation and you're qualifying them and you're helping them. You move them through the pipeline and they fill in. You fill in different fields to make sure that they're a qualified lead, and you're tracking all the various things that need to be tracked against them.
Steve, maybe, I don't know if you have it, but like a report or something, because if we want to show success and if we want to make sure that all this great effort that sales puts in also returns, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. These are very great insights where all the work of marketing and sales comes together, right?
Right, exactly.
And you can show the ROI.
Yeah, so and here we're seeing that so deals created, meetings scheduled, meetings delivered, all the way down, and all those percentages you were showing. Total deals created and won, lost, or open. If you have a sales team, the activity leaderboard. This one's lovely. Contacts created by marketing, contacts assigned by marketing, contacts worked by sales, deals closed. So you get to track marketing through to sales. Average time spent in each day. I mean, you can do lots of forecasting, custom reports. So you can have lots and lots of different reports. And then here is like the marketing side of things. So you can have marketing reports. So there's lots and lots of different reporting that you can have. As you said, Thijs, that's where you show the value.
Yeah, that's amazing, because whether your future customer is on your website or talking to sales or engaging via email with marketing and send out or joining a webinar somewhere, it's all put together in one tool. And with these great reports, you can show to C-level within your organization, this is working, this is not working, we need to adjust this, and we need to boost this. And those kind of decisions, you make actually marketing and sales way more rational than you do based on your experience from the past.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 1 more minute. Thank you, Steve. If somebody has a question, feel free to share it in the chat. I would love everybody to thank for joining. As said, you get the recording, you will get the slide deck. But if you need any more help on introducing your organization into inbound marketing, into inbound sales, because this is the time to do it, please reach out to Steve or to myself, and I will make sure that we will help you and we'll get you covered. I saw some people in this webinar where I am already doing this with them. So great that you were here today. So it's not too late, but it's the time right now. Thank you for joining, and we see each other next week.
Thanks for joining, guys. Good to be here. Thank you for coming.